Hi, fam, and don't forget, share, like, and subscribe. Google will lie to you, typically speaking, if it's something that's relevant, something you could use as a tool. Keep in mind, conspiracy theory and conspiracy theorist, that garbage is social engineering jargon that was drummed up during the Warren Commission. In other words, to defame anybody who spoke out against the quote-unquote official findings behind the JFK assassination. You can read what it says up top. The fact that it's bolded conspiracy theory is divisive as fuck. It's a red flag. They want you to see that first. They want you to think of that. And they want you to draw upon all your feelings and shitty associations that have been spoon-fed to you. You know, things that are well-financed, well-circulated, and normalized. Which is why people are familiar with this. Now, the reason I clicked record, I was just going to rattle off and make you guys stare at my feet in the kitchen, but I figured I'd give you guys some visual aids and see what Google has to say about this these days. Our masters took a lot of time and energy, and I left videos on Chessboard Books on YouTube explaining, if I'm not mistaken, aspects behind each one of these. I think I touched on each one of them. They took a lot of manpower, money, etc., time and energy to move these to the locations where they're at now. It's a telltale sign that these are terribly important to the people who are pulling our strings, whether or not you realize that people are pulling our strings. Like I said, I clicked record, but now I'm knocking out a bunch of disclaimer statements and other aspects to it that people are blissfully unaware of because they don't look into things that confuse entertainment with research. I'll say that again. The children of the Ethernets, the superficial internet babies, and regardless of the decade you were born in, you and I are functioning under an umbrella of indoctrination. In this case, absolute tools of manipulation on the DARPA internet, which means you fall into the camp of superficial internet babies. Most of the things you're going to rattle off in terms of a knee-jerk reaction makes it sound like you were born yesterday, which is why I say superficial internet babies. Because I can't say retard on TikTok. Because patently fascist censorship is alive and well, and who do you think fucking cooked that crap up, spoon-fed that to the masses, and is manipulating us? So people will talk about BlackRock and Vanguard. These are the people who spoon-fed you those narratives, which is why you're vaguely familiar with some of that garbage. Some of that still leads somewhere. It is relevant, but it's not the trilateral city-states and the deeper roots having to do with this shit. So back to point again. The reason I clicked record, and this is an old school meme, mind you. Most likely a CIA-sanctioned meme. Why? Because it's a consent-based system, and I know I keep telling you why I clicked record and then dancing into something else. Because that's how our masters work. You click on something and you get a fucking pop-up. And you gotta click away so you can get back to what you were doing. Then you try to do something else and a different fucking thing sidetracks you. Because that's divisive and that's a red flag, and that's how the internet works now. Because good people aren't fighting for what fucking matters. Yeah? So this is an old school meme, and I would not be surprised if it's a CIA-sanctioned meme. In other words, a decent human, didn't put this together. Somebody who likely works for our masters put this together, spoon-feed you this information, and then, coincidentally, you'd also be told that it's a conspiracy theory, so you absolutely disregard it. Yeah. What do I know? The reason I clicked record, what you see on the left is the top of the trilateral city-states. What you see in the middle is the middle of the trilateral city-states, which a lot of duds assume is the top. In other words, a lot of people will talk about usually just one aspect of the trilateral city-states and or two. And when they talk about two, they don't usually bring up America because they don't have a clue what they're talking about. This is not the top. This is the middle. In other words, tri, denoting three. And usually people don't get very far because they're repeating what our masters spoon-feed them at the top of their feed. And the bottom of the trilateral city-states is the District of Columbia in the United States. It's a third-party phony jurisdiction which is established in 1871 under the Organic Act. It's all red flags. If things were for the people, by the people, the Republic, we would not have created a phony third-party shadow government, which functions threefold: bottom, middle, top. Money, religion, military industrial complex. Why would they do that? Because every aspect of our lives is controlled. They control the money, which is why we're moving towards being converted into, for lack of better words, social credit slaves. Currently, you and I are we're debt slaves, and we have been technically since 1913, because the Federal Reserve was established under the pretense of being both voluntary and temporary. Does it exist today? Fuck yes. Should it exist? Fuck no. But you and I are not surrounded by smart people, which is why things are bad and why they're getting worse. So they control the money. They control the debt, the usury, something else that should not exist, the credit, which should not exist. Everything should be above board. But it's not. All of it's dishonest. They control the money. They control the religion and the other aspects associated with this, not just Catholicism. In other words, these bastards infiltrate groups and manipulate people. All they got to do is spoon feed you an idea and put it on repeat. And you will probably buy into it because it's normalized. And you'll probably start to repeat it and challenge others who challenge you. That's how it works. Now, this is the best of all. So, for review, they control our money, the finances. They've convinced us to rent everything we think we need and things we truly need, like water, shelter, etc., for lack of better words. They control social control, which is quite literally a bullshit outline having to do with religion. Religion does go somewhere, it does mean something, and it does touch on fundamental truths behind reality to varying degrees, but it has since been corrupted and gone through one too many mouths, one too many tongues, and been translated one too many times. Not for our benefit, but to our detriment by and large. Keep in mind, I am thankful that some things are in English because I don't read Aramaic and the other tongues. I'm a dumb American. Let's just sum it up that way. So, money, religion, yeah? If you don't do as they ask, they have a fucking military. There's more to it than just America, but America has how many branches of the military? And how many people work as dogs of the state for, being a cop, for lack of better words again? This is to reinforce our lot in life. If you step out of lines, or you step out of line is what I'm trying to say, they have an entire organization which is many-fold to back up their bullshit phony jurisdictions in place to subjugate the masses. If you were to reject these things, it would not end well, especially with where things are going. Our masters are tightening the noose. The goal is control. They are locking things down. That's also why the jargon has been spoon-fed. Because our masters like to pop jokes, puns, if you will. And that cuts in an entirely different way because people don't understand what the fuck's going on because they couldn't see the forest for the trees if their life depended on it. And I guarantee that's absolutely true, despite what you would assume, believe, and repeat. Anything you've been told, sold, and urged to repeat is a pack of lies. I guarantee it. To varying degrees, but by and large, shit. 8 pounds of horse shit in a 2-pound bag. This is an 8-minute message, which means you're not going to see it on YouTube. No one's probably going to watch this. But I just took time and energy to rattle off some of the same shit that I've said one too many fucking times, trying to help people. And because I'm not shopping around polarizing positive vibes only, and I'm not patting you on the ass, telling you that you're doing a great job fucking everything up for you, me, and everybody you care about, and people you'll never meet in your life, you probably didn't give me the time of day. If you did click on this, you probably clicked away. Because you got an endless slush pile of fucking pointless noise to choose from. Propaganda. That's what most of the entertainment is. It functions as a distraction campaign, regardless. Bread and circuses, motherfucker. And the list goes on. But this is just a conspiracy theory, according to Google. Once again, do consider how many miles, how much time and energy was put into moving, the Washington Monument to its location, Cleopatra's Needle to the UK. And I can't remember the details behind the obelisk having to do with Roma. And I do like to urge people to look into the different names associated with it because they are absolutely dastardly. It's very telling. of Catholicism in a nutshell. Do think of Jesuits, do think of the Ashkenazi, do connect the dots, but I highly doubt any of you will. If you hung out, color me surprised, thanks for your time and energy, and as always, what the fuck do I know? I need to make myself quit doing this because I'm spinning my wheels and nobody seems to fucking care, which tracks with the fact that things are getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And if you and I were surrounded by all these people who are supposedly willing to do the right fucking thing, you would be telling your friends, hey, there's a guy. He's fucking trying to help us. Nobody's fucking paying attention. The algorithm is clearly censoring him, which is why if you subscribe to the accounts that I moderate, you're probably not going to see videos like this pop up in your feed. And if you do, it'll probably be months later, if that. If that. If you go searching for the accounts that I moderate, you're probably going to have to scroll down in some cases to find them. You will have to work for it. Because our masters are fucking with us. These are, they're deterring people is what I'm trying to say. These are tactics of manipulation. Once again, they are locking things down. The goal is control, and they are tightening the noose. Horrible fucking things are coming. Nothing is getting better. Nothing. Because people have not set out on the journey to change any of this. No one has. I guarantee it. If you don't want to, if you don't want some of the worst possible nightmares you could dream up to come true, you need to pull your head out of your ass and look around. Consider these words. Everything you think you know, you have been spoon-fed throughout the course of your life. So what you need to do is quit repeating that shit. It's going to be hard because everything you think you know, you were spoon-fed. What you need to do is you need to start tearing down each and every possible category or subject or however you'd like to look at it and try to build it up for yourself. See whether or not it makes sense. Is it logical? Does it hold water? When I say, does it reflect reality, is it based on replicable evidence-based research? Or is it based on a narrative? An official narrative you were spoon-fed, everybody's familiar with, so they believe in it, and they repeat it. Which is which, and what's what? The tough part is, everything people fucking talk about is based on popular opinion and hearsay, by and large, at least to varying degrees, which is why things are shit. So, you need to challenge yourself. That's what I'm referring to. You need to tear down all the garbage, and who wants to do that, right? You just want to get fucking drunk, do this, that, and that. Other thing, after a 5-day bullshit work week where you put bread on somebody else's table. And I get that. I really get that. I get that. You need to understand, sometimes it's a cathartic recording these videos, but usually I don't want to record these videos. But I see what's coming. Most people don't have foresight. They're not cooking with fire. Which is why I keep doing this, hoping that I'll get through to maybe a couple people. Maybe one. And maybe that one person will actually challenge things and figure some of this out for themselves. And then what? What do you do after that? You have to challenge yourself. Once you finally get a grip on things, and this will take years. This is the most terrifying part, is we're behind the 8 ball. And in order for people to get somewhere, they need to pull their heads out of their ass and look around, as I keep saying. People aren't doing that. And the journey that I keep referring to takes years because you're going to keep getting it wrong. No, the answer is not to be spoon-fed all of the fucking answers. Because that means you didn't work for it, it's not going to resonate with you, and that just means you're repeating shit, which is why we're in this mess to begin with. Do you understand what I'm saying? You were spoon-fed narratives. You have to do this. This is why shit like this is in the Matrix movie from 1999. You can't be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. Not talking about a simulation, not talking about any of those other agendas in place to pave the way for a one-world religion. They're telling you to pull your head out of your ass and put in the fucking time. And nobody's figured that out. It's terrifying. Once you challenge yourself and you're actually sitting on things that make sense, and this is going to be to limiting degrees across some of the subjects, some of the, how should I put it? Say you start dipping into, what people call math, or say you start dipping into what people call physics, you might have some of the answers. So those are some of the things you could challenge others about. And that's what you have to do. You have to challenge other people, because other people aren't going to pull their heads out of their ass on their own. Time has told us that much, because our forefathers were slaves just like us. Only now it's dressed up in a different way, where we're not carrying around, heavy chains. Think about it. Do think about it. You and I are kept. We work for somebody else. That's why you sign a W-2, just to prove my point. And that's one of many examples. Yeah. So challenge yourself, then you challenge others. Then what do? What you need to do after that is you need to band together with like-minded people who aren't fucking retards. Do you see how far off this is? How unlikely it is? It's not something you can knock out in a 1-minute video. It's not something that will take place in a week. There's no revolution coming. You might be told it's a revolution, but it's going to be quite the opposite. It's going to be a bunch of fucking retards tearing apart the infrastructure that holds society together. And that's what our masters want. It's in the programming again and again and again and again and again. But all these copies think that sounds like a good idea, because that's based on reacting, not thinking. So, tear things down, build them up for yourself, challenge yourself, then challenge other people. And this is what I've been trying to do, emphasis on trying. But you and I are surrounded by brain-dead retards who could change this because it's a temporary system, but they're not willing to because they're brain-dead retards. And they want to cling to all the bullshit like a fucking crutch, because thinking is hard. And the last thing they want to do is give up their entertainment. The last thing they want to do is give up the adult fairy tales they believe in and do the right thing. They'll claim that they will, but they're not going to walk the walk, which is why you have to challenge people. Flowery sentiments will not accomplish this goal. In fact, our masters are using flowery sentiments. They've weaponized that, for the lack of better words, in terms of promoting censorship and roping duds in to believe in and repeat their official narratives. You jump online, do you want to hear me barking at you, or do you want to hear somebody that's like, hey there, hope you're having a super day, buddy. Let me just give you some answers. It might sound too good to be true, but it certainly isn't. Trust me. And that shit fucking works. And then they tell you to like and subscribe, and you do. You jump through the fucking hoops instead of thinking for yourself. Because it sure fucking sounds good. And it sure was convenient. Because our masters got us through convenience and entertainment. Now keep in mind, you're just staring at the template of what my phone has set up right now. If this was the only thing I left online, the algorithm would not circulate this video because it doesn't have a bunch of flashy, pointless fucking noise in it. I'm talking about captions and TikTok noises and, jittering GIFs. Noise. Things to distract your mind. To rewire how you think. Which is also a clear and present agenda. In a number of ways. TikTok. That's what TikTok is. Everything about TikTok is designed to distract you and rewire your brain. It's a great example of it. It's not the only one, but it does in every fucking form and way. And nobody's figured that out. The kids think that's, the bastion of truth. That's where we go for our answers. It's a propaganda mill. It's the slush pile of propaganda. It's not the only one, but it's a great example of what I just said. So, challenge yourself, challenge others, band together with like-minded people, as unlikely as this is to pan out. Then what do? Now, this is the point. If I left it at that, most people could not connect the dots on their own and come up with a logical course of action in order to change things for the better. Well, then we just rip apart fucking society and we do what we were told, right? Revolution! It will not be televised. I'll repeat anything. They default to being fucking morons. I said retards earlier, but same difference. The problem. Stupid fucking people. Again, do you want to hear that? Fuck no. Fuck no. Younger me, if I heard somebody like me talking at them, I wouldn't want to hear this shit either. But this is the type of shit that I barked at myself about all these years to figure out what I did figure out. The reason I stopped leaving answers online, the really, really cool stuff, I used to spell it out for you guys in a number of ways. I still pulled punches, but I fucking was just spoon feeding people who do not give a flying fuck about me or anything else, the better good, so to speak, answers on a daily basis, and people took me for a ride, and the moment I asked them to think for themselves, they either barked at me, they blocked me, or they just, they pulled into the shadows, and they still watch these videos. Because they're scum. They're cherry-picking scum, who are the problem and not worth their salt. So once again, what do? And I'm repeating this because our masters get us through repetition. This is why you believe in a lot of bullshit that doesn't reflect reality in any form or way. That's not what I'm selling today, because what I'm talking about you can use as a tool that would be beneficial and promote a harmonious system. And you would know as much if you use the brain between your ears, because you have to challenge what you're spoon-fed. You need to doubt everything I've already told you. You need to look into it for yourself. By the way, that's an example of how you tear down the subjects, the different, categories, and you build them up for yourself to see if they hold water. It is absolutely important to do that, and people don't do that. They just think it sounds good, so they repeat it. Based on belief. Based on a knee-jerk reaction, not thinking. Certainly not thinking critically. So you tear things down, you build them up for yourself, you challenge other people, you band together with like minds. Then what do, motherfucker? You organize and come up with a thoughtful plan to execute. Now, the best part is, most of you would probably assume, I'm going to do that on social media. I'm going to do that connected to the Wi-Fi, to an electronic device. Which is the dumbest fucking thing you could ever possibly do. Despite the irony of me telling you these things on the DARPA internet using our masters' social engineering platforms. It is ironic. The last thing you do is do any of this in an electronic format. You also got to watch out with snail mail and everything else. Because the goal is control, our masters are tightening the noose, and everything is fucking tracked. Nothing is what it seems. You and I are slaves. Every aspect of our lives is being manipulated and scrutinized. And that should fucking terrify you. Because it's bad. And it's only getting worse. And if you think that sounds crazy or clandestine, look around. Look around. Consider the agendas that are afoot. Recently, our masters did away with pennies. That's a clear and present sign that social credit slavery is on the horizon. Because there is no logical reason you would stop creating pennies. Because change needs to be made. And that's also a bit of irony. If you're picking up what I'm putting down. Because I'm popping jokes like our masters do with puns. Because I've adopted a number of fucking tactics that our masters employ. Because their methods are effective. They're not terribly clever. And what I just said wasn't terribly clever. But their methods are effective. So you band together outside of a digital format. And then you execute a thoughtful plan. Now, this needs to be better than what's going on these days. What I'm talking about is our masters have how many aspects of a military to rub you out, to see that none of this comes to fruition, to see that you are not successful. They've been working against the people all these years. This dates back to the 16th century. This shit should fucking terrify you. It should keep you up at night. And this is just the superficial shit to me that people do not understand. And they don't want to. Because thinking is hard. What I'm referring to is I'm sitting on what you would think of as esoteric truths, answers to reality, how this fucking thing works. And it is equally beautiful and absolutely terrifying. Our masters understand how this shit works. They hide that stuff in the programming. No, you're not going to see it. You're not going to get it. In fact, you've seen plenty of projects, I guarantee it, growing up, because we were raised under the umbrella of indoctrination. And all of them went unnoticed by you. Because you don't have eyes to see, because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And if you did, you wouldn't need me. You'd already be telling people all about that stuff. Because the first thing you want to do when you find something really neat, or somebody like me spoon feeds you something that resonates, that you can use as a tool, that's really fucking cool, you dash out the door, you piss in the pond, and you tell people who promote propaganda campaigns about it, and then they start likening what you taught them to the propaganda campaigns. They corrupt the information because our masters' methods are effective. Not terribly clever, but they're effective. Because all this shit that's been normalized, because it was well-financed and well-circulated, is in place to fuck you and I up. These kids are going to believe that they live on the flat earth or the globe theory. That's one example. We don't. That's not how it works. And you can't use either of that shit as a fucking tool. So if I showed you something really fucking cool, think about the parameters. What parameters would you dress that up in terms of reality, how you and I function, in terms of knowing thyself, in relation to the world at large? You think it's on a giant fucking globe, or you think it's on a flat disc? These are two circles, by the way. I'm just saying, it's the same fucking outline. Just different dimensions. That's the easiest way to tell you that both of those are bullshit. Absolute bullshit. But people don't understand that. They want to believe in it because it sounds good. And when people tell you about it, they tell you with a smile. And once again, then they tell you to like, subscribe, and, suck their dick. And you do. You drop down to your knees and you're ready. You're salivating for that shit. You're so eager to fucking click like on that garbage and click repost. No, I lied. Pardon me. Most superficial cunts under the sun don't click like. But you would repost it. Because it sounded good. And it might make you sound smarter than you actually are. Which is really what you're concerned with at the end of the day. Is looking good. Because this is a superficial fucking society. It is absolutely far gone. I mean, it's so far gone is what I'm trying to say. And it's absolute shit. I haven't eaten today. So these are my long-winded rants now that I'm home. Because all this shit's always burning in the pit of my gut. I'm trying to help people, but I'm surrounded by fucking morons. And they're not willing to change that fact because they assume that I'm wrong and that they're not morons. Oh, pardon me again, retards. To be consistent. Like I told you, you got to tear things down for yourself. And yeah, I'm kicking this dead horse again. Tear things down for yourself, build them up, challenge others, band together outside of a digital fucking medium, and then execute a plan that cuts the heads off all the snakes, pulls up all the weeds at the root. That's the only way this is ever going to get better. And that's because you can think of it this way. Say you got an idea, yeah? Right? I have an idea right now. This is an idea. And I'm vocalizing this idea to you. These are 2 steps. This goes nowhere, means nothing, and is fuck all. Unless we band together and what? You got to act it out. There has to be action. And no, I'm not talking about marching in the street or making, less than clever signs or screaming at the sky or dancing in the streets or buying a blow-up frog costume or any of that other fucking garbage. I'm talking about absolutely horrible things I would rather not have to do. But things are far gone. You and I are slaves. We were born into this. These are things you were told in the Matrix movie. But most people just assume that it's a fucking Matrix and it's a simulation because that's an agenda. I should also say it because it's a disclaimer statement and people haven't figured this out. Simulation theory, the adult fairy tale, or the adult, like I said, I'm burning out. The multiverse of adult fairy tales. I'm talking about multiverse bullshit, which doesn't exist. Doesn't reflect reality. The holographic universe. You ever heard of that? That's bullshit too. And all things quantum theory. Atomism, quantum theory, all that stuff is in place to pave the way for a one world religion. The coolest fucking thing in the Matrix movies, nobody understands. Because this goes back to me saying, you don't have eyes to see. So the Matrix from 1999 is a great example of something that I know you've seen. Most people have. It was well-financed, well-circulated, and normalized to promote these agendas to pave the way for a one-world religion. And just like that, now people believe that simulation theory isn't a theory, that it's real. They talk as if there are glitches and a number of other examples because they bought into a narrative. This is an official narrative. This is an example of fucking propaganda. But the cool stuff in the Matrix movie, people don't see it. They don't talk about it. They don't understand it. That should bother you. Specifically, whoever you are, if you saw this and you sat through this presentation, that should unnerve you. You can go back, you can pop on that movie, but I guarantee you're still not going to see it. Because you haven't torn down any of the subjects, you haven't built them up for yourself, you have not challenged yourself, which means you're not capable of challenging others, which means there's no fucking chance that you and somebody else are going to do the same thing and challenge somebody else and get them to do this, and you guys could band together, more than 3 people. You think 3 people is really going to change what we're living through? It's not. Which is why this would have to take off like fucking wildfire. And all these years of fucking pointless entertainment where you've been, inundated or, subjected to distraction campaigns. People should have been fucking chipping away at this shit. They should have been using their time. But they weren't. Consider this an episode of Tangent Cam. So in terms of people, not banding together and knowing what they're talking about, blah, 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 some of you might assume, but there are people who have created militias. These are the same people who claim that they're patriots, which I don't have a problem with being a patriot if they were fighting for the Republic, fighting to reconstitute the Republic or something under a new banner. Technically, I would still fucking call it the Republic because our masters rebrand things and the Republic gets the point across. That's just me. These are the same people who will claim that they're patriots and other things like that. Typically speaking, some of them are hell-bent against, the country, which is technically a corporation, which was converted into a corporation in 1871. In other words, they're reaffirming phony narratives because they do not know what they're talking about. And these are also a lot of times the same people who will, and I've used this example many times because it's fucking retarded, the same people who claim to be a sovereign citizen. That's an oxymoron. Either you're free or you're a debt slave. What do I mean? Citizens became debt slaves in 1913 when the Federal Reserve was established under the pretense of being both voluntary and temporary. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, it's fucking retarded. And I lived in states before where I knew people who were part of militias. And they claimed that they were sovereign citizens. I went drinking one night with some of them, and yeah. You can't reason things out with people like this in general. And I'm not just saying just people who buy into the malicious shit. With anybody and everybody you're going to bump into. Because out of the gates, they believe what our masters have spoon-fed them, which means they work for our masters. It's important for me to say this as well. They are the angry villagers at the door. In terms of the Matrix movie, they're the agents. Anybody can be an agent. You're told these things. Flat out in the programming. But I've been trying not to use that last one as much in terms of an analogy, because by extension, and any publicity is good publicity, it does promote the simulation bullshit, which has to do with what? Paving the way for a one-world religion. So I've been trying to dance it back to angry, stupid people standing outside your door with torches, who want to burn you or rip you limb from limb because they're scared. They're terrified because they were told to be scared about something. Does that also stink of bullshit and remind you of 2020, the present day, where people were really scared and they reacted and they were told to do certain things and they jumped through those hoops and they expected you to do the same fucking thing, to act just like all the other retards? That's an example, by the way. They're getting fucked up, digesting the latest propaganda, which is why you're told to digest the latest content, by the way. That's a red flag. And they're not doing the right thing. But they're told that they have answers and that we're living in the age of information, which is actually the age of disinformation. But that doesn't dawn on superficial people because they're superficial. And what they're doing is counterproductive, which is why they're retards. But they could change that. But now our masters are telling you that it's cool to be a retard. I miss the 80s and the 90s where the last thing you wanted to do was be a fucking retard. Because that's not a talking piece, but today it is, apparently. You get a pat on the ass and you get, or you can go pop some big pharma pills funded by the Rockefeller Trust. That sounds super. You probably need a therapist. Here's some other social engineering jargon to reinforce both of those narratives. And people do. And it's in the programming. How many shows have you seen where the superhero or whoever the fuck has to go to fucking therapy? That should take the wind out of your sails if you're excited to watch something like that. But that's been normalized. And people will just digest it. They think it's okay. It's been normalized. That's a propaganda campaign in the fucking entertainment. I mean the programming. I mean the propaganda. Because that's what it is. I'm going to show you, so long as I have enough memory on this phone, where to find those obelisk videos on Chessboard Books. I'm also doing 15 things at once. But I also want to highlight, I left a lot of videos online last night. This one's under a minute. One person supposedly saw it. That might have been me to check, see if it worked. Either way, not a lot of views is my point. 1,000 here, but that's because it's an 11-second clip and I have Sharon Stone's face in it. That should bother you. These are red flags. You and I are being manipulated. 4-minute video, 2 people might have watched it. The comment on there, that's me. Just saying. Once again, 31 seconds, 29 seconds. That's the only reason why people were shown this stuff, because our masters are manipulating people. Now, I got 1 view on both of these, but these are longer videos. They're not extremely long, but they're certainly not being circulated by the algorithm. Otherwise, I would have more views. Granted, views are arbitrary online now. I don't know. There's a lot of videos I recently posted you guys should have fucking watched. There's a good example of a number of things having to do with hanging out with Google and all the videos above it. You could also watch my shit analogies, but you might want to watch those too if you haven't. And there's a number of other videos in here. I'm going to bark at you, but I will teach you things if you fucking think about them. Just the same. I purposely tried to leave a couple things in here because I'm trying to pull away and not record videos again, which I say often because this shit fucking burns you up. But things aren't getting better. So I'll have to stop this in a second. Okay, so I was on Obsidian Monarch. I left this on more than one platform or more than one profile is what I meant to say. Just so you guys know. I left them on this profile as well. I think same ones, dead on for the most part. Yeah, shit analogies to the top. I think it's the same thing. Just so you know. So this is the account where I do sell books. I read things online. Typically speaking, the longer videos weren't being shown to anybody. And lately, the shorter videos aren't being shown to anybody, so I haven't been leaving a lot on here. Because our masters are doing things like this to deter people such as myself. So Chessboard Books, I got a whopping 49 people following this, which is insulting. It's fucking insulting. Where is it? So if we scroll down, and I tried this a while back just to see how many people might see this video. It's under a minute. The best I got, 39 views, which is pathetic. It's fucking pathetic. We're looking for videos having to do with the trilateral city-states and obelisks. And I'm just showing you this because I want you to understand how you could fucking find information on the DARPA internet. I shouldn't have to do things like this, but I feel obligated because people aren't very bright. They're not very bright. So I want to show you how far down we have to scroll. And maybe I passed it too, I don't know, because I'm fucking complaining about all this shit. Karnak, it should have been around there, I thought. Yeah, it's right here. These ones. What's the longest one? Almost 40 minutes. The other two are under a half an hour. And I labeled it. So you got the top, the UK, Cleopatra's Needle. You got the middle, which is Roma, and that obelisk I want you guys to look up the name of, because if you're invested, you're involved. And the bottom, which is the District of Columbia, which is symbolized by the Washington Monument. Choose your fucking adventure. Do the right fucking thing. And if you sat through this entire video, tell somebody else who may or may not be a retard to consider the entire presentation, to take some notes, to look into things, to challenge themselves. It's the only way anything's ever going to fucking change. You and I have been had. We are being manipulated. Most people don't want to believe that's true. But it's fucking true, motherfucker. Once again, if you hung out, I'm surprised. And thanks for hanging out. I know you superficial fuckers probably want an image, so let's do this. Altered movie synopsis summary. And I say synopsis summary because Google stopped fucking knocking out a summary or a synopsis if I only use one, because you and I are being manipulated. I've been trained to jump through extra steps in order to achieve a goal. So if you remember Malfoy from the Harry Potter movies, and this didn't bring it up, I don't think. There we go, another one. They just shut out a movie having to do with this jazz. Let's just see. So you can have a flashy image. It's this. It's probably going to be a piece of shit, if I'm not mistaken. This is the image I just saw. Don't forget, he's a human Ouija board. That might go over some of your heads, but you might have digested the latest entertainment years ago, and you might know what I'm talking about. And that might be funny to you. Because I'm fucking fun. You guys just don't realize it. Let's see, is this the one? It says another film. Let's just do it this way. Altered movie 2025 synopsis summary. So we can cut to the meat of it. There we go. Altered is a 2025 science fiction action film where, in an alternate, post-apocalyptic present, genetically enhanced humans, that's what I want you to focus on. Genetics control a society that marginalizes those who are genetically unmodified. Specials. You want me to read that again? You could read that. Think about that. Because this is where we're going, and the programming, the propaganda on the box and the big screen is closer to our near future than people realize. Because our masters are popping fucking jokes left and right these days. They forecasted things and told us what was coming many years ago, and a lot of it was pretty far off at the time. I'm talking about, I was born in 81, so read between the lines. These things have been ratcheted down in recent years, and in other words, think of that shitty Adam Driver film, he's a talentless fucking hack, where there was a train crash. That's a good example of our masters telling us what's what and laughing at us. It's a great example. And they do shit like that. And they always have done shit like that. But now it's closer to the mark in terms of when they roll these things out on a schedule. Really, that's all you need to read here. This is also why there's a narrative being shopped around. It's also why superhero movies became pride and number one. Because our masters wanted to remind you that superhero movies are out there. Keep in mind, those also symbolically represent the wandering stars, which aren't planets. But people haven't figured that out for the most part. 1 second. I'm fucking with a burrito. Get in there. When I do things like that, it makes me think of Johnny Depp, even though he's a baby-eating piece of scum that probably murdered River Phoenix, who was also a Zionist. But I'm thinking Fear and Loathing, I am Ahab. Back to point. The reason our masters are shopping around things like this having to do with superhero stuff is because there's a narrative about you could be a superhero. What that really boils down to is when you merge man with machine, you could have fucking superpowers because you'd be altered. You'd be augmented. You'd be upgraded. Do you remember Idiocracy where they say upgrade? It's in the fucking programming. But as always, what the fuck do I know?